We did it. And I'm just realizing I don't have my drink. Give me a second. I'll be right back. Oh, I'm a true professional. I'm a true professional. Truly. Truly, he is the king of kings. We have made it back. We are streaming. Yeah, the clown show continues, right? The clown show continues. There's not much. Like, I feel at this point the only reason anybody would actually be tuning in to this show would be to just have a moment of absurdist catharsis and to be with someone who genuinely is of the opinion that our society is a clown shoes society and we're full of clown shoes people. I mean, I think the big news or the big observation of the week is that people are beginning to clue in to the reality that Mark Carney is like a far-right Zionist, right? Like he's way further to the right than Stephen Harper, even. Yeah, omnicidal tendencies, exactly. Like, I, for one, can't wait for the White House UFC fight. Like, this is clown shoes. Like, it's clownish. Bloop 183 over on Twitch. Hey, John, hear about Elon? The world's first trillionaire. What are we even doing? Yeah, like, all this moment is proving is that the vast emptiness that exists inside the human soul is truly unfillable. You can never actually fill the vast emptiness with stuff. Like, what does it matter to Elon Musk at all if he has $1 trillion? Who cares? And like it's probably something that he's been thinking about and being like, I'm going to be the first trillionaire and then daddy will love me. And he's going to hit it and it's going to mean nothing to him. It's just going to be more emptiness, and it's just going to be continuously vast and empty. Peanut Butter Beatrice, good to see you. We're all stars now. In the dope show. Long Defiant, good to see you. Greetings, fellow humans. How are you enjoying your time as humans? Are you enjoying your human skins? Are you having fun with the decay? How is the decay treating you? I'm really aware of it right at the moment because I work with a woman with Parkinson's, and she is, Mara, if you're listening, I don't know if you tune in. You have asked, but, she is experienced, like she's having, it's taking over. It's taken over, right? And every time I see her, it reminds me how grateful I am to be healthy. How grateful I am to just have my basic health. And it shows me the path for many of us, right? Like, Mara is in a situation where she has the care that she needs, but I can perceive a person not having the care that they require when they get in their old age and they have something like Parkinson's and they have a stroke. It's just like, it's the journey we're on. Like when I say things like, the hardest thing to do is to deal with yourself. JT, good to see you. Omnicidal says, you're an idiot, John. Omnicidal. How dare you, sir? What better way to start Pride Month with two oiled up naked guys fighting on your lawn? Think, John, think. You know what? Omnicidal, you've sold me. You've sold me. This isn't a disgrace to the presidency. It isn't a national and even international disgrace. To turn the White House into like a set piece for like a Mortal Kombat scene, right? Like Scorpion and Sub-Zero are fighting and the White House is in the background, you know, or like Ryu and M. Bison are fighting and the White House is in the background, right? Like that's not. It's sort of wild because I remember a time that if a game studio had have done that, if a game studio had have set their thing at the White House, a huge segment of the population would have been like, "This is a disgrace to the White House." What's the legacy? What's the word I'm looking for? There's a word here that I'm blanking on. It's driving me crazy because it's the perfect word to describe it. Where everybody's like, the White House is of a sacred territory and it is dignified and respectable, and we should not tolerate it being used as a lowbrow entertainment. And now the president is literally hosting a UFC event, building an arena there that he says he wants to be personal. Prestige. Thank you, Ong. Thank you, Ong. Good crack at it, though, Peanut Butter Beatrice. Dignity, close. Integrity. Yeah, that'd be a good one. But it is prestige. The prestige of the United States is shown through its treatment of the White House, right? Integrity. Omnicidal writes, since Lent, I've been taking care of myself and I've lost almost 25 pounds. Good for you, bud. For real, good for you. Turns out you were only 155 to begin with, so you're actually, like, emaciated. No! Don't do it, Omnicidal! That's horrible. Oh my goodness. Like, the fight on the White House lawn has just got to be, I'm going to watch it, right? I'm going to watch it. Compton, good to see you. Because, like, this whole thing has become, like, I really understand what George Carlin was talking about when he was saying this is all just a freak show, right? This is all just a freak show. And he was saying it before Donald Trump showed up. Like, and it's being aired. Of course it's being aired for free. Right? This is a national event, right? It's on the White House lawn. PBS could stream it. Like, this is of national concern, right? Like the Secret Service is involved. So it like, I actually think legally it has to be broadcast publicly, right? Like, if the president goes out on the White House lawn and makes a speech, it's broadcast publicly, and it can't not be, right? Public airways get a hold of it. So that's like what's so stupid, which is a shame because Carlin wanted it sponsored by corporations and make it a PPV. Yeah. JT, really though, is it any weirder than hosting a chess game on the White House lawn? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's very weird. And Donald Trump has said that he wants the arena that he's built on the White House lawn to be permanent. He wants it to be permanent. So, like, you'll go to the White House and you'll see, like, the Jefferson Monument. And then there'll be, like, the Trump Ballroom and the Trump UFC ring. Like, what? Can you imagine? I know I say this all the time, but it is, like, it's the thing I always think. What if this was happening in China? What if in China, Xi Jinping and the Communist Party of China built a UFC ring right outside the palace in Beijing and held fights there? Like, what do you think we would be saying about that? And, like, it's so dumb. Like, it's so disrespectful to literally everyone. It's disrespectful to the fighters. It's disrespectful to the idea of martial arts. It's disrespectful to the White House. It's turning something that should have prestige and dignity and turning it into a spectacle. Like, it's so clear Donald Trump does not give a fuck about the White House or the legacy of the White House or any of that kind of stuff. The dude is just like, how can I make as much money for myself and like build ballrooms and watch fights and shit? It's so stupid and so sad. Will Trump get in the ring? Yeah, we'll see. He was big in the WWE. I think Trump is in the WWE Hall of Fame. Because, like, he had a stint where he was, like, with the WWE. I feel like that's where he got, like, all of his training. Like, he went to the WWE and they gave him, like, here's how you do smack talk. Here's how you do, like, speeches and stuff. Here's how you got... And he got a real taste for, like, listening to the crowd roar. And then from there, he's just like, well, why don't I just do this publicly, right? Long Defiant. There's nothing dignified about top-down government. Keeping it on point, Long Defiant. Keeping it on point. So I have a couple of articles that I've been wanting to read. Let's keep it Canadian. It's always good to hear from neo-fascist American rags like the National Post. Let's hear what these American fascists have to say about Avi Lewis. Avi Lewis is the new leader of the NDP, and he basically every single time he stands up and says anything, he gains a lot of support. That's cool, right? He's got that. He took a look at this Zoran Mamdani guy and went, "Oh, you mean if we actually say, hey, people, you have needs, and we're going to fill them? People like that?" What? I think to me that's been like the most obvious sign that the political class here in Canada and in the United States is completely corrupt and bought out and obviously all colluding with one another. Because like historically, one of the primary strategies in order to actually gain power is to say, hey, we noticed that you don't have a thing. Would you like the thing? And people go, we would like the thing. Let's vote for the guy who's saying he's going to do the thing. And then they do. And that's usually how power is balanced, and that's usually how power works. But for the last literally 20 years, since the moment I was like, oh, there's politics and there's leaders and we can pay attention and interact with this system, I'm like, okay, when is any politician going to stand up and say, I'm going to offer something of value and then do the thing I say I'm going to do? I think in my lifetime, it's literally like legalizing weed. I think that's the only promise any politician at any level has ever said and then upheld in any serious manner, right? That's it. So it's just like embarrassing. And now here comes Avi Lewis, and Avi Lewis is like, oh, people should have food. Food is something that people should have. And people are going, oh yeah, people should have food. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a thing that we all need to have. Who knew? Who knew that a political party actually saying, "Hey, we should help people," would carry traction? Who knew? JT writes, seems Sunday in Washington will be 32 degrees Celsius and a chance of rain. I hope it rains to make it chaotic. Let's find out, JT. JT predicts, I'd guess they'd attach him to the NDP and communism to take him down rather than address his platform. Yeah, it's pretty shocking that they're even addressing him at all, right? That tells you that they're kind of afraid of him. Because they actually feel like, oh, if we actually don't talk about this guy. But the thing is, and I've said it again and again and again on this stream, and I'm going to continue saying it, that the ruling class is now so bought in to its own religious ideology, to its own shit, that when it makes these discussions, it can't help but sound like a lunatic and like a stupid moron. Like, there's no more self-awareness. It used to be that they kind of did have to walk around and be like, okay, we have to make an argument and we have to actually put forward an idea that makes sense. But now it's like literally talking to a Christian fundamentalist or a flat earther, right? These guys think the earth is round? Don't they know? Like, that's what it's like now. And that's what I suspect we're going to see with this article. And that's kind of what's making politics so frustrating, is that you can't really have a serious conversation anymore, because at least half the people in the conversation are just lunatics who don't really believe in anything that you could attribute to reasonable or reality. It's just nuts. Yeah, they're living in their bubble. So John Ivison is just like a far, far right Zionist, like neo-arch conservative. Like, it'd be really tough to find somebody further to the right than this guy. And I'm including like many of the Nazis in this. Like, this guy is basically a Nazi as far as I'm concerned. Like, if the Zig Heiling started happening in Canada, John Ivison would absolutely join in on that. You wouldn't have a problem with that. He certainly wouldn't write an article saying it's bad. The disturbingly powerful allure of Avi Lewis's Gen Z socialism. So already off the bat, right? The disturbingly powerful allure, right? Like, yeah, Avi Lewis stood up and said, hey, we notice you're having a problem. We're interested in solving that problem. And that's disturbing. And it's an allure. Okay. As opposed to offering nothing. Interesting. Since May 15th, 9 opinion polls have the NDP in double-digit territory, mainly due to a cooling in sentiment on the left for the Liberals. I mean, the Liberals, they only garnered their support because Trump instilled fear in Canadians, right? When Avi Lewis was elected leader of the New Democratic Party just over 2 months ago, he issued a boast that was almost Trumpian. John Ivison literally was pro-Trump, and now he's using Trump as a cudgel, because fear is all they have now, because they're too stupid to understand how to, like, empathy isn't in their catalog of ideas any longer. It was almost Trumpian in its braggadocio. Canada, mark your calendar. The NDP comeback starts now, he says. But it turns out he was right. Yeah, who knew? Actually offering something to someone is popular. A Liaison Strategies poll released on Monday had NDP support at 15%, with the party leading amongst 18 to 34 years old. To put that in context, the NDP won the support of 1.2 million voters in the 2025 election. If a vote were held tomorrow with a similar turnout at this level of polling, the party would win nearly 3 million votes. And to, like, really give you, to put it, they're not actually saying it, but, like, the NDP was basically wiped out in the last election. For good reason. They were just, like, a loser dud party. They were just, like, another liberal party, basically. Just offering nothing. We'll give you the 0.5% increase over 50 years, and you'll just accept that because our corporate masters said so, essentially. And it was all just dressed up with, like, this Sikh look. And it's like, okay, that Canadians are not going to bite down on that. Right? We're not keen on, like, Justin Trudeau, but a Sikh guy. Like, that's not really what we're in for here on the left. Since May 15th, 9 opinion polls have the NDP in double-digit territory, in large part because of a cooling in sentiment on the left for the Liberals. What a soft way to say people are realizing these guys are fucking Zionist losers. What a soft way of saying people are realizing that Mark Carney is actually the furthest right prime minister we've had in my lifetime. He's further to the right than Brian Mulroney. He's further to the right than Justin Trudeau. He's further to the right than Stephen Harper, even. Right? Like, Mark Carney has done more of Stephen Harper's platform than he's done of Justin Trudeau's platform. Like, it's just crazy. The polls suggest that Lewis is becoming more familiar to Canadians, and a lot of them apparently quite like what they are seeing. Ostensibly an articulate, telegenic, bilingual leader arguing for a better deal for workers and the young, particular when it comes to the adoption of artificial intelligence. Always got to keep artificial intelligence in the conversation for some reason. This is annoying. I find this whole data center conversation, this whole AI stuff, like the most annoying thing that's happening. It's so obviously a grift. It's like so obviously an attempt to extract all of the wealth from the society and the community and the environment in order to create like a techno prison, basically. Like it's so clear and obvious that that's the case. And we're all just supposed to like go along with it because what, Kevin O'Leary said so? It's just like, oh, we are actually embarrassing. Like we're just an embarrassing people allowing billionaires to just psychopathically destroy us all for nothing, for literally like nothing. What do we get out of it? Right? And they keep saying like, this is the future, and if we don't do it, then someone else will do it. And then like you look at like the end state of it, of AI, and huge amount of companies are basically saying, yeah, we're losing money on AI. It costs us more to use AI than it does to just use people. So it's literally purposeless. It's straight up just like a billionaire in a ketamine fugue being like, and then the AI will come and everything will look better. Yeah, let's do it, AI. It's straight up just like a manic dream of a psychopath. And we're all living it because we refuse to stand up and say to the psychopath, okay, that's enough ketamine for you, champ. Like, for real. That's what our system is doing. It's great. Yeah, they're just building Ed 209. For those of you not familiar, Ed 209 is a reference of RoboCop. You know what's so funny about that scene? There's this scene in RoboCop where the corporate guys are showing off Ed 209, who's like the future of police enforcement. It's just like a robot with weapons on it, basically. Big robot with guns. And to display it, they have a guy point a gun at the robot, and then the robot's like, drop the weapon or I will shoot you. And then the guy does drop the weapon, but the robot acts like he doesn't. And so he's like, warning, you have 10 seconds to comply. And then the guy like freaks out and there's like a whole thing. And then he gets shot by this robot, right? And like when you're a little kid and you watch this, you're like, yeah, badass. And you're like, yeah, these corporate guys are idiots and dumb. And then like now I'm older and I'm like, why did they have bullets in that robot? Like they could have just had blanks. That's technology that exists now, right? They could just have no bullets in the thing. That the scene could have been that the robot starts firing, but he dry fires, right? Click, 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 click. And the guy's like, oh, has that kind of thing going on. So it could have been the exact same scene, but instead of shooting the guy, right, he could have just been like, click, 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 dry fire, right? And that would have made a lot more sense. I would have been like, yeah, like why would they put bullets in this robot for a test like this? Where like some guy is supposed to just point a gun at this. Yeah, nobody thought when they were running this test or running up to this test, like, yeah, just have one of the executives take a revolver, point the revolver at the armed death machine that we have, and it'll be fine. And nobody was like, what if it goes wrong? Like, what if things go sideways? What if it doesn't respond? Right? Like, what if our predictions are not correct? And literally nobody was like, yeah, we just won't put bullets in it, obviously. Like, they're just, like, so dedicated to the idea of their own law enforcement and their own hubris that they're like, no, it always must be armed to the teeth constantly, or else what's the point of building this thing in the first place? Yeah. JT writes, I wonder if Verhoeven knew he was how prescient he was. A lot of the cyberpunk ideas existed, but just something about his depiction. RoboCop is prophetic. Yeah, I think Verhoeven, like, it's not so much that he was prophetic. I think he just took the logic of the industrial class in Europe during World War II and applied it to America. That's it. And he was like, yeah, and here's this like future tech layer. Like if the Nazis had access to RoboCop style technology, they for sure would do this, right? They just for sure would do it. And it only seems prophetic because, time echoes, right? We're not that creative or clever as humans. Like, we keep doing the same stuff, right? Like, it's not prophetic to say if I take a bunch of beavers and put them in a body of water, they're going to build a dam. It's just not prophetic. And if you take a group of rich psychopaths and you just give them unfettered access to whatever they want to do, they're gonna build a RoboCop. It's just what they're gonna do. RoboCop was R-rated. I guess there was like a lot of it for the time. It was fairly gratuitous. Now it's like RoboCop would be like PG-13. Probably at best PG-13. All right. He has not acclimatized to national politics yet, as he showed in his press conference when asked about the Alberta separatist movement. Quote, "The separatist movement in Alberta has no point of comparison with the historic sovereignty movement in Quebec," he said. "It's a mega-aligned, potentially funded disruptive movement. It's not the same thing. He could hardly have done more for the separatists in Alberta if he had called them deplorables." What? So, hold on. John Ivison, I know that you're like an incompetent Zionist boob, right? But like, try to keep, like, the whole point of writing an article is to sort of make sense of a phenomenon, right? So you say he's not acclimatized to national politics, but then you give a quote where it's very clear he is acclimatized to national politics. He just doesn't care about these MAGA guys, and he's not aligning himself with your friends, basically. That doesn't make him not acclimatized. That just means that he thinks you're a fool. Because guess what, John? You are. Like, you're obviously a clown. You're a Zionist clown. So, however, his humans first AI strategy, I love that it's in quotes, humans first, right? Because fascists like John Ivison always need there to be a subhuman class. And in this AI world, the subhumans are humans, right? It used to be that there would be like the Jews or the Romani or like some other like subsect that you could find, right? That would be the subhumans. But in the world we live in now, this like techno-fascism that we live in, the subhumans are the humans. Delaney, how you doing? Yeah, they already have RoboCop. The AI cars. It's crazy. I was just talking about this yesterday. Yep. We're right on the same wavelength, Delaney. You and me. I can tell. We're locked in. However, his humans first AI strategy, his proposed ban on surveillance pricing, where companies use personal data to determine prices, and his call to remove the Canadian Labour Code's Article 107, which gives the minister discretionary authority to order striking workers back to work, have all positioned Lewis as well-being within the parameters of NDP convention as a pragmatic democratic socialist. There you go. Pragmatic democratic socialist. Look at you, John. The first accurate thing that you've said in a while. Last week, he promised the Liberals a very hot summer if they limit the right to strike, which is said is under attack after the government held consultations on the Labour Code. Yeah, the Liberals are like an extreme far-right party. Like, it's... I don't know why people don't see the Liberals this way. Like, they're extremists. They're far-right Zionist extremists. Like, just because they're doing what they're doing with like a little smile, just because they're doing what they're doing while speaking very calmly to the Canadian people, doesn't mean that the things they're doing are not extreme far-right. Like, the Nazis would be like, yeah, this is right in line with what we think we should be doing, for sure. Let's clap for a Nazi. Let's put up Nazi monuments. Let's increase military spending. Let's cut social security. Real straightforward Nazi shit, right? Lewis said the Liberals have been flooding the zone with legislation attacking environmental, worker, and indigenous rights since they gained their majority. Yeah. There is a reasonable fear that they're going after the right to strike as a whole, or at least on major projects, he said. This is a smart position that any NDP leader in the last 40 years, from Ed Broadbent to Jack Layton, would likely have taken. Not Jagmeet Singh, of course. Jagmeet Singh couldn't take a policy decision to save his life, and that's why his party got completely destroyed. But voters should not be fooled. Lewis is not Broadbent or Layton. He is an unabashed proponent of what The Economist this week labeled Gen Z socialism. Oh, well, if The Economist labeled it that. Right? If The Economist said it's Gen Z socialism, oh, well, then we should definitely be taking that seriously. As his leadership platform revealed, Lewis wants to remake the economy with price controls on grocery and rent, impose hefty wealth taxes, and nationalize grocery, telecom, and pharma companies. Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be super great. All of that sounds good. Let's go through that again. As his leadership platform revealed, Lewis wants to remake the economy with price controls on groceries and rent. Yeah, lower the rent even. In fact, let's take away apartment units from landlords entirely and nationalize the entire thing. Impose hefty wealth taxes and nationalize grocery, telecom, and pharma companies. Yeah, absolutely. You guys have completely lost the right to govern, right? Like, you've utterly lost the right to govern entirely. You guys are incompetent, insane, psychopathic Zionist Nazis. You no longer have the right to govern. Fuck off. We should take all of your assets away. All of them. We should shut this newspaper down. Absolutely, 100% we should shut this newspaper down. We should nationalize every industry that you have any control or stake in, and we should tax all of your wealth away. We should leave you with, like, a small house in the suburbs of Barrie, Ontario, and you should be grateful that you get that at the end of all of this. That we don't just take you and put you in a hole and forget where you live. Right? Like, what you're doing is so evil, so psychotic, and so embarrassing that you should not have any assets, any say, any control at all. And the idea that you think somehow you still have the right to govern is itself clown shoes at the highest possible level. Just total hubris. That if the worst thing that happens to you is that Avi Lewis comes and raises your taxes 2%, you should count yourself the luckiest people on the face of the planet. Because if I was the leader of the NDP, I would be calling for the complete decimation of the capitalist class and mass arrests and huge tribunals and, like, Epstein files investigations. I would make sure that you guys never saw light again. You understand? Like, and I consider myself a total centrist. You guys are walking around raping children and, like, destroying, like, literally everything and calling it data AI centers and all this kind of crazy nonsense that you're doing. And you're pretending like you're normal and I'm extreme. Like Jason Voorhees with his axe, just like, or machete, just like slaughtering people. And I'm screaming, stop that. And he's going, what's wrong with this guy? Like, that's what you look like to me. You must be stopped. You are obviously evil. So obviously evil. And yet, huge sections of the Canadian populace are like, well, it's a free speech issue. He can say what he wants. Maybe we should be raping babies. The country is awash in wealth, he said in his platform. A fountain of wealth. But it's not trickling down to working people. It's stuck at the top, being hoarded by the corporate welfare bums. His solution? We need a government that has the courage and the political will to go after it. The Economist, yes, The Economist, certainly not just a billionaire propaganda rag, noted that Lewis is part of a fresh wave of socialists, including New York Mayor Zoran Mamdani and UK Green Party leader Zach Polanski, who don't believe that economic growth is helping ordinary people, because it isn't, who think that spending should be paid for by the richest, and it should be. And actually, it shouldn't be paid for by the richest. The richest should be eliminated as a class. We should eliminate them completely, right? Everyday people should be paying for the society that they live in. It's just that there's dragons in the society today. We literally have a television show called Dragon's Den. We should slay the dragons systemically, and we should make it impossible for dragons to exist in the society. And it promises to make the people who are winning, quote unquote winning, if you want to call this winning, like these losers, these like pathetic far-right extremist Nazis think that they're quote unquote winners because they get to like buy children to rape. Like, I can't imagine a bigger loser ever. Like, guys like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, like, these guys are massive losers. No one should ever want to be like these guys. The fact that they have this enormous amount of wealth is itself a sign of their desperate loserdom. Like, if you look up to these guys, you're the biggest loser in the world. You should despise these people. And you should be looking at them as like cautionary tales of like, oh yeah, ooh, I don't want to be a capitalist. This is what happens to these guys. Yikes. Here's the twist from John Ivison. Let's see. Let's see what they have to say, right? Let's see what the psychos are saying to one another. But it goes without saying that voters are being sold a pig in a poke. Man, these guys are losers. Rent controls would make the housing shortage worse, says our neo-fascist economists we pay to say so. Grocery stores that are already working on net profit margins of 3 or 4% would cut back on choice. We're nationalizing them. Who gives a shit? Like, who gives a shit about your stupid grocery store logic? We're nationalizing them. Fuck off. Go away. Leave. Wealth taxes would deter investment and innovation by... Like, we don't need psychopaths to invest their money, right? We don't need psychopaths to, like, let's create a rape center. We're investing in a new dynamic, innovative technology where we give birth to babies to rape them. Like, we don't need that. We're not interested in what you think is valuable to invest in. You've lost the right to have these thoughts and ideas. You've lost the right to govern. We don't want your input. You understand? While driving up avoidance. Yeah, we hope you avoid us. Do you not understand? Like, we hope you go away. We want you to leave. Right? That would actually be best for everyone. That's what's so outrageous about these guys, is that basically everything he said here boils down to, well, if you do that, we'll leave. Bye. Bye, dumbass. Bye. Like, well, Jason Voorhees standing there with his machete covered in blood being like, well, if you protect people from my mass slaughter, then I'm just gonna go slaughter elsewhere. Bye. That's the point. We want you to leave. We're not interested in you. You're crazy psychopaths that are doing nothing but hurting people. Our lives would be significantly better without you. Bye. And the fact that they don't get that, that's the best part. The fact that they just don't get this. The fact that they don't get that, like, we don't want you here. You're losers. Everything you've done for the last 40 years has been nothing but terrible for us. You saying, well, if you solve the problems, we'll go away, is just an encouragement. Oh, good, you'll go away? Fantastic. If I never need to hear about Elon Musk ever again in my life, I would consider that a massive win. And if that's what you're promising, fantastic. If you pass anti-Nazi laws, then the Nazis will go away. Fantastic. The messy business of governing inevitably creates divisions, because that's what capitalists do on purpose. as Prime Minister Mark Carney's Liberals are now discovering. But Carney's goal of building the strongest economy in the G7 is the right one. So far-right Nazis endorsing a far-right Nazi. Lewis talked in his press conference last week of the need to create a Canadian economy that is, quote, safer, secure, more calm, and more predictable and less disruptive. Yeah, that sounds great. This is hardly likely to happen if the government taxes and regulates everything that moves and subsidizes everything that stops moving. No, idiots. You're the ones that are making things unsafe, insecure, less calm, unpredictable, and more disruptive. You're the ones doing it, and we know you are. And so, putting taxes and regulations on you is going to help us, for sure, because it's going to slow you down at the very least. Because you're psychos, right? Milton Friedman had it right when he said the record of history is clear. Oh, let me say this again. Milton Friedman, economist for Pinochet, had it right when he said the record of history is clear. There is no alternative way of improving the lot of the ordinary people that can hold a candle to the productive activities that are unleashed by a free capitalist system. So it's a religion, right? They literally end this with a religious argument, right? The record of history is clear as long as you ignore history and the record of history. There is no alternative way. So it's just a religious argument from a guy who enacted a genocide with the help of Pinochet in Chile. Slam dunk article, John. Well done. You're certainly not a psychopath. Certainly not. A normal, rational person. Certainly not like, wow, boy howdy am I looking forward to when guys like you no longer have a voice. Oh, I'm looking forward to no longer reading these articles. Because guess what's happening? Guess this is really what they want, right? Mike Johnson says he has a plan for additional cuts to Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare. Like, just killing people. That's all it's about. These guys get off on killing people. That's really what it's about. That they want to commit murder sprees. And when we stand up and say, hey, we don't want you to commit murder sprees, they cry foul. It's wild. It's wild. It's wild. Dub Desert over on Twitch says slay the dragons. Yep, nice mug. Thank you, sir. Who lives in a pineapple under the sea. And Gan Jubuster, why you're so sexually attractive? Well, thank you. It's because of my burning aura of righteousness. That's really what it is. It's because everything that's coming out of my mouth is absolutely the truth, and you know it is. And because you haven't heard someone actually say the truth for a long, long time, you're attracted to that, right? We're so bereft of that. There's such a vacuum of people even attempting to tell the truth that even when somebody stands up and says what sounds true, right? Especially if they believe it, like Jordan Peterson. To me, this was Jordan Peterson's entire appeal, is that he believed what he was saying. He thought what he was saying was the truth. But he was a schizophrenic idiot who was 100% wrong. Right? And all his entire thesis is disprovable in a single sentence. So but people are attracted to it because they're so used to just liars and shysters and manipulative people who are coming into the room and being like, well, what do you think? Let's just say the thing back to you. And everything's a sales pitch, right? That when somebody actually stands up and says, this is what it is, here's the argument, people are like, wow, a real argument, right? That's all it is. Like, that's all it is. So there you go. Dub Desert says that's a great wall you have back there. Thank you. I did it just for you. What can I say? What's your favorite part? Like, what can be said about this, man? In an interview yesterday, House Speaker Mike Johnson said programs like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid have to be adjusted and fixed. We have a plan to do that next year. He claimed cuts to these critical programs are necessary to reduce the national debt even though Donald Trump and the Republicans' one big beautiful bill is expected to add nearly $5 trillion to the debt because of its cut taxes for the rich, despite making the largest cut to Medicaid in history. Like, these guys are psychos, right? And what's so embarrassing about this is that, like, money's not real. Like, that's the best part. Like, you don't need to cut Medicaid. That's completely pointless. You don't have to do that to pay for anything. They're only doing it because they want to murder people. That's it. They're like, how do we murder people? This is a way to murder people. That's the only reason they're actually doing the Iran war. Because it's like, oh, here's an excuse to murder people. Let's murder people. And that's it. Like, it really is time for us to understand, like, these guys have, like, a sexual fetish for murder. Like, that's what it is. And in the meantime, the Iran war continues. They're fighting back and forth, but the U.S. House passes war powers resolution in symbolic blow to Trump. It's my favorite, man. Like, like, what could show you more that your system of government is completely illegitimate than the House passing a law saying, hey, maybe stop doing that war, and the president basically just being like, we're just gonna keep doing that war. It's fine. It's totally fine. We don't need to actually stop doing the war, right? We don't need to actually, like, cease. Because at the end of the day, the unfortunate truth that nobody wants to actually admit is that the military-industrial complex took things over after World War II. Like, it's willing to tolerate the existence of, like, a civil government, but the military is just doing what it wants, right? And it's not really interested in actually enacting any of the, like, ideas that it has for the world. That everything is just a shell game. It's just shysterism at this point, right? It's literally like, how do I make the most amount of money for myself, period. And that's as far as anyone at any level of government anywhere thinks. How do I take this thing and make more money for myself? Dub Desert asks, do you think the U.S. can ever get radical change if they keep the two-party system? Oh, Dub Desert. The future of the United States is one of complete collapse. That the federal government of the United States has now delegitimized itself so thoroughly that it can never regain its prestige, ever. Under any circumstances. It's no longer possible. Like, the emperor has no clothes, the jig is up. Literally nobody anywhere in the world outside of a vanishingly small group of, like, diehard religious believers in the concept of America actually think that America is going to come back or regain any prestige or be a worthwhile project. That articles like this, very simply, right? Like, additional cuts to Social Security, Medicare, the billionaire class itself, the owners of your society, are actively dismantling the project of America. That the future of America is that the United States of America ceases to exist. It'll exist in, like, a technical way, but it'll, like, regress and recede, and it'll be like the original 13 colonies will be the United States of America. But there's going to be this collapse and recession of the empire, and that the United States of America as a prevailing project will simply cease to exist. And places like Texas and California will go it alone. And you'll see some of the states band together because they share, like, a river, and they have common interests with one another, or common problems. And like the South will rise again, right? Like Louisiana, Missouri, all these like the slave states who are really, really desperate to get slavery back on the menu. Boy, are they ever just like slavery, slavery. Are they ever pro-slavery? And they're doing everything they can to bring slavery back and to put slavery back on the menu. And so America is not America as a concept, as an idea, as a country, is not going to survive and persist into the future for much longer. It's not going to be tomorrow, obviously. That's not how history works. But, like, within my lifetime, for sure, I'm going to be, like, 80, and California and Texas will be seceding. Right? It might be sooner, it might be later, but there's a 0% chance that this concept of America stays intact. It just... if America managed to remain in the configuration that it is right now, it would literally be the first country in human history to have managed it. The first empire to have actually done it. So, it's not going to happen. And America is not going to... America is going to experience radical change, but it's going to experience radical change because unfettered capitalism is a revolutionary force. Right? If you allow capitalism to just do whatever it wants with no regulatory oversight or conversation, it's revolutionary, and the end point of that revolution is the wholesale destruction of your whole society. And that's what you're experiencing. People call it late-stage capitalism. I just call it capitalism. And so you're going to experience local revolution. Like, that's how it's going to go. Each individual state, and it'll come down to counties in some places. It'll just be like counties and cities, right? Eventually, people will just say, yeah, this is obviously bullshit. Like, and it is. And I'm actually of the opinion that the most likely way it'll actually go is that the federal government of the United States will finally say, okay, we actually do need things like roads, right? We actually do need things like rail. Like, we need like basic infrastructure. Like we need a power infrastructure that actually works. Like our military needs these things. And so they'll say, okay, that means that we need to raise taxes, right? Because they'll have already cut everything, right? Your Medicare and your Social Security and all of that will be gone. And they'll say, okay, but we need we need something. We need some kind of revenue to pay for like basic infrastructure. And so they'll turn to the only people who will have any wealth, which will be the Elon Musks and the Mark Zuckerbergs and the Peter Thiels, right? These just obvious, overt, raving psychopaths. And the psychopaths will say, well, I'm not interested in paying any money for anything because the only way that I experience value in life is by my bank account. I don't actually have empathy or a soul. And so they'll turn to the working class and they'll say, hey, working class, do you want to stop paying federal taxes? And the working class, which is already overburdened by taxes, will say to the billionaire, yeah, I don't want to pay taxes anymore to this federal government that's giving me nothing. Literally nothing. Like, people get nothing for their taxes in the United States. It's actually embarrassing that you're not like striking now already. Like, British peasants in medieval Europe would have already executed their king over the taxation that you're experiencing. Like, literally a medieval king would be like, we're going to raise taxes by 1 bushel of hay a year, and he'd be fucking executed for it. And you guys are just like, yeah, 50% of my money for nothing makes sense. Yep. I get absolutely nothing for it, but, America! Like, what a dim-witted people. And so Peter Thiel will just say to this, like, idiocracy, hey, how about we join forces and we stop paying taxes? And you'll all go, yeah, I guess so, that makes sense. And then you'll overthrow the federal government. The federal government will be so weak. Peter Thiel will have his own, like, robot military and his own militia. And he'll basically buy off a bunch of politicians anyway, because politicians are super cheap. You don't need a bunch of money, right? And so he'll just bribe everybody with his trillions of dollars and his robot army, and like Texas will secede, right? Or not even Texas, like Maine, like it'll be like Tennessee, like it'll just be like something like this, and then of course Peter Thiel, because he's a neo-fascist, like he's a Nazi, will govern that way. Right? And you'll have your like racial extermination and your purges and all that kind of stuff, and like the standard bog stuff. And some of the states will just go full-blown Nazi with like the costumes and like the iconography and the whole thing. And then others will be like socialist and will go on a socialist bent. And then there'll be the resource wars, the internal conflict that occurs. The ideological conflicts, because capitalists will attack communists just because they're communists. Take a look at World War II. That's what the entire war was about. So, like, that's the future of America. The idea that America is going to pull back from this. The idea that America is going to be like, oh shit, this is a bad idea. We should all get together and do something better. Abandon that. That's done. That's over, man. Donald Trump is the beginning of it. You understand? That this isn't tick tock. Like this has been a steady journey. This has been a ratcheting in one direction for a long, long time. And more specifically, let me be clear about one other thing, by the way, Dub Desert. The Republicans and the Democrats in this entire process are allies. They've been working together. The only reason the Democrats are upset with Donald Trump is because he's made things so obvious that the cat's out of the bag. He's too grotesque. He's too stupid. He's too unempathetic. He's too psychopathic. He's too open about everything. So he's really let the game out. And the Democrats can no longer play the role of good cop with and maintain credibility. They can no longer play this role where they're actually like, we're actually in opposition to these Republicans, actually, right? They've always been pretending. It's always been an act. They've always just been putting it on for you so that you'll vote for the lesser of two evils, which is literally the best friend of the Republicans. Like, it's like you're tired of being beaten up by Fred Flintstone, so you vote for Wilma Flintstone. Like, how do you think this is going to go? Like, what do you think the trajectory of your culture and your society actually is? And the biggest blowback that you're going to experience in America is you're going to see a blowback happen from Trump. And it's the classic American blowback, because Americans, for all their hoopla and Second Amendment rights and guns and revolution and all this kind of stuff, are inherently cowards. The cowardice that exists all throughout America is absolutely stunning to watch. And so they're not actually going to like show up at these guys' houses with armed militias, which is how it should go down. No, instead of that, they're going to go to the ballot box and vote for the lesser of two evils, and they'll vote for the Democrats, and the Democrats will do nothing. They'll do absolutely nothing. They're not going to release the Epstein files. They're not going to do an investigation. They're not going to arrest anybody. There's not going to be a big purge of anything. There's not going to be anything. And in fact, the Democrats will just continue the war with Iran and continue the genocide in Israel and continue the war into Lebanon and just continue along with the policies that Donald Trump was continuing along, because Donald Trump's policies are the Democratic Party's policies. They are in exact lockstep with one another. That the only reason the Democrats are upset with the Republicans is because he's kind of gross. And that's it. That the Democrats had a more statesmanly way of enacting their genocidal policies, right? And it was working. People fell for it. Like when Obama was elected, a huge section of the electorate fell asleep. That Obama showed up, hope and change, and everybody went, hope and change, and we had a big election. It was a big cultural moment for America, and then Obama, through his entire presidency, was Donald Trump. Like, if you just look at their policies, If you just look at the laws that got passed, you're like, Trump, 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 Trump. The only thing that's different is that Obama projected an image. Well, folks, here in America, we believe that hard work and values is the future of America. And people are just like, yeah, I'll eat up that slop. Oh, it's so good. We have so much dignity. Look how intelligent we can look. Oh, yeah. And then Donald Trump shows up and he's like, yeah, we're just going to bomb some kids. What are you going to do? Oh, don't worry about it. I like inflation, in fact. Inflation's great. I don't care. Makes more money for me. Just get a better job. Just get a better job. And so it's like cats out of the bag. And now things have gotten so outrageous with Donald Trump. Things have gotten so egregious. Things are so over the line that any rational, free-thinking, normal person is saying, yeah, somebody should be arrested. Like, there should be an investigation. Like, I remember when I was doing this work under Obama, I was saying people should be arrested. And most people were like, that's too much. That's too far. Oh, we got a real extremist here. And now saying, yeah, people should be arrested for this is like a hard mainstream center position. Somebody should go to jail. 100%. Jared Kushner, Stephen Miller, like these guys should be arrested and go to jail 100%. Right? And the Democrats are going to get in, and they're not going to even launch an investigation. They're not going to do anything. And that's going to be the biggest blowback moment, I think. That the blowback from Donald Trump is going to be the Democrats, right? But the blowback from the Democrats failing to do anything, I think that's going to be extremely violent. I think that's when things get extremely violent. Carlaire, I think things will be all right. Things are not all right now, my man. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like ICE. Here's a great example, right? When the Democrats get into power, they're just going to increase ICE's funding. Like, that's what they're going to do. The Democrats increased ICE's funding the entire time, and the only time they stood up and went, ICE is bad, is the moment Donald Trump got into office. Because they knew that there's a section of the constituency that's gullible enough to believe that the Democrats are not somehow allied to the Republicans on this issue. Commie Economist, good to see you. JT, yeah, hope and change equals bait and switch. Exactly. Dude, what a great poster. Right? Get the Obama poster. And put on, instead of hope and change, bait and switch. Yeah, I love it. Matthew, good to see you, my man. Commie Economist writes, liberals are often controlled opposition for conservative capitalists and fascists. We need socialists in power. Absolutely. No, absolutely. Like, liberals are just allies, right? And there's this, like, kind of religious belief that people have that, like, we can just vote our way out of this one. Sure. I'll believe that when I see it. Like, don't get me wrong. I would love to live in a world where we could actually go and vote for policies that actually helped us, and then those policies actually got passed. Right? I'd love to see that. I'd be a huge, huge fan of living in a society where that happened. You know, a place like China. I'd be a huge fan if my elected officials actually enacted policies to help anybody. Right? They're not going to. It's not the nature of the system. That's not how it works. And continuously believing in it. Long defined, what will break the working class out of its complacency? $30 Big Macs, $15 gas. The gas prices going up has been radicalizing for sure. 50% unemployment. Yosemite evaporating half the continent. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what I'm talking about when I say, like, Americans are cowards. Like, you're just sitting by and watching it happen. Like, it's happening and you're all going like, what can possibly be done? It's like, go to their houses, surround their properties. Like, this is how it's always been done. You take a look, like, how did the New Deal happen? It happened because trade unionists, socialists, and communists surrounded people's houses. Like, that's how it happened. There's no mystery to it. You just don't want to because there's TikTok, right? And you're like kind of comfortable. Like, but this actually speaks to something that I say all the time, right? This speaks to something I say all the time, which is that people really want so little. Like, we don't want that much. Like, that's the thing. Like, most people are fine with this idea of like working and like going to a place and doing a job, especially if they feel like that job is somehow in the community and actually helping people, right? They feel like they can get some kind of meaning out of that, and they can define themselves as a person who's part of this task to help people's lives. And then they just want, like, you know, have a couple of beer on a patio somewhere, enjoy the sunlight, have some laughs, have some sex, right? That's it. Like, most people want so little, it's absolutely insulting. Like, it's absolutely insulting what's going on. Like, and that's how you know the billionaire class is just utterly detached from reality and has completely lost any reason or sense whatsoever. Like, just raise people's wages. Pass a basic income. Just like the most mundane shit you could do. Literally give people money. And so much of what we're talking about would just deflate out of the society. Any of this kind of stuff would just be like, "Boo." And Americans would just go back to the couch. That's it. And they would just shut up. The very fact that Americans are getting off their couch and going anywhere and doing anything just shows you how dumb these guys are. I'm Elon Musk. I have $1 trillion. Why is everyone poor? Like, what do you think here, man? Like, what do you think's happening? Kami writes, only class consciousness will wake the people up. Otherwise, they fall for the scapegoats capitalist media sets up. Yeah, I mean, you're onto something. Like, we're easy to trick. Like, it's pretty easy to trick us. Historically, that's true. And I mean, you just take a look at the MAGA movement, right? Like, Donald Trump's entire success as a politician is just taking advantage of the gullibility. There's this great documentary that I'm forgetting the name of right now, but it's somebody basically goes into the MAGA movement. Just like, who's at the center of this? Who's the central organizer? The QAnon phenomenon, right? Remember the QAnon phenomenon? That's really what he was investigating. And when he was talking to a lot of these people, like a lot of the people he was talking about, like the central organizers and the people at the center of this, were, to say it kindly, like mentally handicapped people who obviously are dealing with some kind of mental situation, right? Like, and it's not rude to say, like, when you do an interview with a guy and the guy's talking to you like this, like, yeah, I love Donald Trump and everything he does, you know, it makes a lot of sense to me. When I did my research on the internet, I found that, like, sorry, it is what it is. Those people vote. And Donald Trump took in a bunch of them. Right? And all they understand is that, well, when the Democrats show up, everybody gets poor. Which is true. Because the Democrats' policies are the Republicans' policies. They're right in lockstep with one another. Yeah, my mom was working a job and then she got fired from her job because the Democrat gave a bunch of money to the guy and he pulled his stuff out. Like, so you alienate huge sections of your populace and then you're shocked that a con man shows up and gathers them up. Like, Donald Trump is the absolute icon of Democrat hubris. There is no reason for Donald Trump to have ever taken power. There is no reason anyone should have lost 2 elections to this guy. The only reason you lost those elections, Democrats, is because you deserved it. That's what you bought. That's what you actually are. And that's what the Democrats really don't like about Donald Trump, is that finally and fundamentally at the end of the day, he reveals what they actually are. That all of their policies, all of their ideas, all of the thoughts that have come out of any Democrat's head, the end point of that has been Donald Trump. Congratulations. Elaney, a lot of Americans are a lot more communist than people think. California itself could take over Canada at this point. Canada wouldn't be able to stop it because their government is just as incompetent. Unpopular opinion, but you'll see some weird ass Oregon, Washington, California, Vancouver offshoot. Vancouver will just be like, take me, California. Don't discount the power of nationalism. Nationalism is an extremely powerful force, right? Like, it's really dumb to say, but it's absolutely how humans are, which is that, like, I'm from X place, and that X place is somehow sacred. Like, I'm from Manitoba, right? And, like, I don't live there. I haven't lived there for over a decade. But, like, if somebody tries to fuck with Manitoba, I'm like, yeah, no, you're not. No, sir. No, son. Like, that's not going to happen. And people are like that. And people are like that with, like, the concept of Canada or the concept of Vancouver, right? Like, nationalism really, really matters. Really, really matters. We will see Alberta invade Idaho. Right now, it's all just economic talk, right? Dub Desert said, if you aren't angry, you aren't paying attention. Well, and when people start to pay attention, right? When people get politically active, this is another thing that Donald Trump really took advantage of, is that you had a lot of people who just became politically active. And the most common thing for people who are just becoming politically active to do is to fall into conspiracy theory, right? Because they don't actually know what's going on. So they just grab hold of speculative thoughts and let their imagination go wild, which isn't bad. Like, it's good to have, like, an imaginative force, and it's good to have that kind of stuff. But, like, my advice for people who are just becoming politically active is don't start going into, like, Illuminati place. Don't do any of that kind of stuff. Like, there's no secret to what's going on. Just read The Economist and read the financial press, like the Financial Post, right? Just read the business papers and understand that bankers are villains. Like, understand that there are workers and there are owners, and you're not an owner, right? And they publish publicly. They publish their thoughts publicly. Like, I've got a great article here that I'm actually probably going to read at some point. Because you got the Wall Street Journal, another great article to read. Just make sure, another great newspaper to read. Just make sure you understand that you're reading a Nazi newspaper, right? Like, once you understand that, like, these places are like Zionist Nazi outlets that are publishing against the interests of the working class and for the interest of capital. Like, once you understand that, then you can see really clearly. It's like way out in the open. There's no big secret. There's no big, like, class of hidden Illuminati people. There's no unnamed stuff. Like, it's all there. It's right in the open for you to see. These guys that are, like, walking around being like, I'm going to unveil the secrets of just read The Economist. But just don't read it being like, this is what the smart people think. This is what the people with the brain in their head are saying. This is the future of America. Read this as if it's like fucking Sauron writing. Being like, well, the Dark Lord Sauron would like you to think of this. Right? And of course, to bring this up again, if you're Peter Thiel, here's a quote from Peter Thiel. Gandalf's the crazy person who wants to start a war. Mordor is this technological civilization based on reason and science. Outside of Mordor, it's all sort of mystical and environmental and nothing works. Peter Thiel, aligning himself with Sauron. Right? Like, he's Saruman. He's straight up aligning himself with the forces of evil. It's great. What a normal world we live in. What an absolute normal world. But the Wall Street Journal is now publishing that the world's most surprising economic success story is North Korea. What? It's almost as though communism works. Who knew? Elaney writes, it's true, you got to get the 300-pounders off the couch. It's true, you got to get the 300-pounders off the couch. You're obviously doing worse than just a bad job. When your policy is so bad, you see people who are 400 pounds at the protest. Maybe it's time to do some introspection. Yeah, like, look, for me, the Democratic Party really like outs itself as an unserious political force because it essentially permits Donald Trump to win, right? Like the entire time, the corporate establishment of the Democratic Party is kind of just looking quizzically at Donald Trump and at the American people and constantly just saying, they're not going to go for this guy, right? Like, they're not going to go for this guy, right? Like, what? What? Because for them, it's always just been about PR management. It's not actually been about like the day-to-day lived reality of anybody in the society. It's just like, we just need to have a better sales pitch, right? And they don't really understand that after Obama, people aren't going to fall for that again. Like, people aren't going to, like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, I ain't going to get fooled again, right? Like, that's a George W. Bush quote, and it's right. I ain't going to get fooled again. Like, and so you got a huge section of the American public that when you pull out your Hillary Clintons and your Kamala Harrises are just like, this is just a grift. Like, and then we had the Joe Biden moment, and a bunch of Americans, like, the number one reason why people were like, yeah, Joe Biden, let's go with Joe Biden, is because they're like, we just want to return to normalcy, because that group of people failed to recognize that this is normal. This is your normal, right? Donald Trump is just outing everything. He's just making it obvious for those of you who were never paying attention. And then Joe Biden takes power and the Gaza genocide happens. And people are like, hey, Biden, you going to stop that? Well, hey, Jack, we gotta, for America. And that's it. That's all he said about that. And like, Joe Biden was a far right Zionist. He was always a Zionist. And when the genocide started, he was like, yeah, we're just continuing, hey, Jack, for America. That's it. That's all. And so a lot of Americans finally just throw their hands up and are just like, oh, okay, so you guys are exactly the same. Like, there's no difference. You're just trying to put like a DEI woke face on this. That's the conclusion many Americans came to. And so they're just like, well, why not Trump? He is what you are. Right? Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, Obama, Biden, right? He's Donald Trump. They're all Donald Trump. Right? Trump just makes it obvious. And I think that's what Americans like about him. Like, I think that's what a huge section of people like about him, is that he's just making it obvious. That if you're still in the woods about what your political system actually is, then I don't think we can salvage you. I think that it's done for you. Like, if you're still standing there saying, the system is working and America's the greatest country in the world and all of this kind of garbage that we were hearing throughout the 90s and the 2000s. Like, if you're still saying that now, you're just a lost cause. You're just a complete lost cause. We're just waiting for you to die. That's basically where we're at. Yep, their sales pitch was, at least we aren't Trump, but they were. Like, they were. Elaney writes, East Palestine, Ohio train crashes, explodes, nuclear bombs an entire American city. We go to Biden and are like, hey, dude, East Palestine is in trouble. You going to send aid? And Biden's like, so far gone mentally. He goes, well, I don't care. Support Israel. Yeah, this is why we need term limits and age limits if we're going to have elections. Nah, the term limits and age limits conversation to me has always been a waste of time, right? That the trouble with the American system is that it's just structurally embedded within the system of capital. It wouldn't matter if Joe Biden was a 40-year-old man. It wouldn't matter. You would have the exact same outcome, right? That's what I never bite down on this like cognitive decline kind of thing. Like, to me, the cognitive decline of Biden as well as Trump indicates something culturally about our society, where we don't have any dignity and we don't have this, like, we don't really handle our old people with a sense of grace and dignity. We don't, like, what's the conversation around Trump right now? The conversation about Trump right now is he's in perfect health and everything's completely fine and he's as strong as a bull and all this. And it's just like, come on, man. Like, can't we have an adult conversation about, like, an old man? Right? Can't we actually say, like, yeah, of course Trump is having some health concerns, dude. He's 80 something. Like, you would have health concerns too. Well, aren't you concerned that that's having an impact on his ability to govern and rule? Donald Trump has good people around him. And, like, do you know what intelligent societies do when their people start to age out? Their leaders retire. Their leaders point at someone else and say, that's the guy now. And everybody goes, okay. And then they do it. And they're just like, okay, you're the guy now. And then the leader retires and keeps governing from behind the scenes. And then the new guy shows up. But, like, Donald Trump is, like, because we have this kind of mania, we fetishize youth. That's why we have so many pedophiles. We have fetishized youth, right? And like, I mean, if we wanted to be really honest, we have fetishized the concept of sex itself, right? That turning sex itself into a fetish is what our culture has actually done. And it's so, like, fucking embarrassing what we've done to ourselves, that the concept of sex has become a taboo that we all want to break, and so it's a fetish. Dave, good to see you. Your impression of Joe Biden was spot on. Fantastic. Thank you, sir. I did it just for you. So the concepts of term limits, though, and all this kind of stuff, it's so beside the point, right? It's so unnecessary. You don't need to have term limits or any of this kind of, like, what you need is you need a system that's actually responding to the needs of the proletariat and the needs of the governed, right? Like, that's it. And what will flow from that is kind of just a mutual understanding of, like, oh yeah, like, you're old. Like, time to retire, my man. Like, that's it. And just this kind of sense, because the people who are in positions of power and authority are not there because they're con men, right? They're there because they have ascended an actual meritocracy, an actual chain, to actually show people that they're actually interested in actually governing, right? Then they can retire with dignity and grace. Whereas somebody like Donald Trump can't retire, right? Donald Trump can't just step down from power because his whole grift relies on the idea that he's going to cling hold to power until he dies, right? Because if he actually loosens his grip at all on the power that he has, then maybe someone will actually be like, hey, aren't you guilty of crimes? Right? Not that that's actually going to happen, but he can't take the risk. He lives in an adversarial system that's chewing itself apart and is going to completely chew itself to pieces. The death of Donald Trump is going to be just like, oh, is that going to be crazy? That's going to be absolutely crazy when the center of this mega power cluster finally bottoms out and all these guys start to eat each other. Oh man, it's just going to be wild. I actually think it's going to be Rubio that gets to the top of it. Dub Desert says, yeah, it's nasty how sexualized everything is now. But it, like, I'm not talking about, like, I would argue that a society that is sexual and is sexualized, right? That's fine, right? I think that that's completely healthy and normal. Like, we are sexual creatures. There is this sexualization that exists inside of us. We are the product of sex, right? Every single one of us here, with the exception of, like, a test tube baby that exists, is the byproduct of a sexual union between a man and a woman. That's the inherent truth of reality. And it isn't that we have sex and sexualization in our society. It's that we still have taboos about it. Like, we still think that sex and sexuality is dirty and gross. And that's where the fetishization comes from, right? that there's still this like embarrassment. We still hold on to these ideas of like a Catholic guilt kind of thing, where we have an extremely negative perception of sex. And so what that means is that the people who are being sexual and who are projecting sexualization into the society are breaking the taboo, right? They're breaking the fetish. And so it's creating a divide that exists in the society, where the people who still are pretending as though they're not sexual creatures and that they're not part of this thing, and keep it all in private and keep it all behind closed doors, even though everybody knows everybody's engaging in this stuff. And so there's a dynamic at play that is a fetish. It's just described exclusively as a fetish, and the fetish is enjoying sex. That if you enjoy sex, that's like a worse fetish than enjoying like bondage at this point. Like if you reveal to someone that you like to be tied up, people are like, "Oh, you, right? Ho ho, how cheeky." But if you're like a straight woman or a straight man and you're just like, "I enjoy sex," then whoa, we need to talk to HR and we need to have a big conversation about it. Right? It's stupid. Like we're in a real stupid moment right now. And it's made extra stupid because like the internet exists and we have like all of the evidence you could possibly need that people, you know what people like? You know what people really enjoy? Sex. How do I know? Because it's pretty obvious. It's pretty clear. But if you actually admit it, and if you actually engage in it in any serious way, right? You're in trouble. You're in like serious trouble. Right? Like, if you are in a workplace and you just are having a conversation with a woman, she leaves, and you turn to a coworker and simply say, "Wow, that's a beautiful woman," you're going to have a conversation with HR. That's a fetish, man. That's a fetish culture. You can't just express, not even like, "I'd like to put my cock inside of her." Literally just like, "Man, what a beautiful woman." There's something wrong with us. Like, and if somebody goes to HR after a comment like, "What a beautiful woman," HR's response should be, "Fuck you, stop wasting our time with this garbage." But like, oh, no, can't do that. And so we've created a fetish culture where the number one fetish in the society is enjoying sex. That's the number one fetish in our society by a lot. Right? And it has like downward effects and odd things and strange offshoots. Like, why are there so many goddamn pedophiles? Why is the president of the United States a pedophile? Like what the hell? Like, why is the entire Catholic Church just a pedophile club? Like, why is it that every person in any position of power anywhere is just like this goddamn pedophile? What's the story, Morning Glory, right? And I think a thing for us to investigate culturally is we have fetishized sex itself, and that there's this fetishization of pursuing even the most basic stuff, right? How are we anti-sex but pro-birth? Yeah. Generation Y me, good to see you. I will buy several champagnes for all of us. I don't understand the comment, but thanks. John, good to see you. Long Defiant says, the U.S. distributed all its power to the various complexes, military, financial, technology. The government is an order taker, a servant of the wealthy, not a respecter of votes. Yeah, exactly. Like, at this stage in the game, the government really just exists as a way for like Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates to negotiate. Really, that's it. That guys like Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, they all know that they're going to have conflicts with one another in terms of who owns what asset and all this kind of stuff. And they all know that when there is a disagreement, there should be some kind of body that exists to negotiate and to come to an agreement about, okay, well, who actually wins this conflict, right? And that's all it is. And it's nothing else, right? It's nothing else. So, and it operates exclusively on behalf of people like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Larry Fink, right? It doesn't exist for us. It never existed for us. The only way that the American people were ever able to get the federal government to actually do anything on its behalf is when they surrounded people's houses. That's it. And like, you can't actually sustain a political model and a political system that relies on your electorate surrounding people's houses. Like, it's just not going to work. And it's especially difficult now that you have organizations like the CIA and the FBI, whose entire job is to cut those organizations down at the knees, right? Dub Desert says, what branch of socialism do you follow? I mean, I call myself a scientific socialist. That would be more classically understood as just like a Marxist. Right? And some people might argue that I am a Marxist-Leninist. I take the line of Marx, Lenin. I think Stalin was a good communist leader. And I think Mao was a good communist leader. And then I also think Deng was a good communist leader. And I think that goes all the way to Xi Jinping. So I am of the opinion that that China is currently fighting an economic fight against capitalism, that the system of communism never betrayed the policies or the idea of communism, that it was just put in a survival state where it had to survive many different material conditions and factors that were happening, but that the institution that Mao erected has never been compromised. That it's the same institution with the same people vetting new generations of communists in order to run a communist society that is in economic warfare against a capitalist force that is attempting to enslave it and destroy it. And it hasn't yet. Right? And it's looking like it might not. That's what's really fascinating about China. Is that it is it's a standing communist institution from World War II. There aren't many left. Right? There aren't many left. You got to go to like very small countries to be like, yeah, here's like a communist enclave that exists post World War II, or post the Cold War, more specifically post the Cold War, because one of the big capitalist successes, and of course one of the big losses for the world, is the fall of the Soviet Union. The fall of the Soviet Union from the capitalist perspective is a big victory because it means that the center of communist power in the world collapses. But China basically picks that baton up and keeps going. And that the capitalists were under the belief that they could turn China capitalist. And they were wrong. They were wrong. So I'm a communist. I think that we should not be negotiating with capitalists. I think that we should put people in positions of power who are going to strip assets away from the capitalist class, tax them out of existence. And if they threaten us with saying, we'll stop investing and leave, we should say goodbye. And say that's the least of their worries. We should seize the means of production. We should stop giving them wealth, stop giving them money, and no longer allow them to publish newspapers in our society. Like, they should not have a voice. like that's where I'm at. So I take a look at this sort of modern strain of what's being called Gen Z socialists, People like Mamdani, right? And I think here's a group of guys who are negotiating with the system of capital who will be obliterated by the system of capital. That any achievements that they make, and there are achievements, like the big thing that Mamdani is really showing everybody, and that the capitalists are not happy about, is how easy a lot of this stuff ended up being. Right? Like he takes power and the capitalists are like, doing this will destroy the state. It'll be a huge problem. And literally in a day, he's just like, yeah, we just did it. It was easy. Because guess what? A lot of this stuff is easy. Like a lot of this stuff is really, really easy, straightforward, simple stuff. Right? And I think that's what the capitalists are not enjoying about this moment. That all of their screaming about how chaotic and difficult all of this stuff will be to implement is actually false. Obviously false. Like it's not actually hard to do. Like to me it's not too much different than like a capitalist standing up. Like imagine being in a capitalist society before libraries or before public school, and the capitalists basically saying like, "Oh, public library, people will just you think people will return the books? Oh, this whole thing will fall apart in a day. Oh my god!" And then you just build a library and just have a library, and you're like, "There it is." Right? And it's the same thing now. Like, you think there's going to be grocery stores and people will just go in, it'll be cheap, well, people will just leave, it'll be a chaos, and they just do it. And it's fine. Right? And really what's being revealed of these capitalists, and I've said it over and over again, right? Like, because of the amount of wealth disparity that exists in the society, what's really being revealed of these capitalists is how stupid they are. Like, they're extremely stupid. Capitalists in the past understood, like when Marx stood up and said the things that he said, capitalists here in North America understood it. And they understood the injustice. They understood, and maybe they thought the poor were dingy and stupid and all that kind of stuff, and all the bigotries and all that. That's fine. But they intrinsically understood the concept of like, yeah, we got to give them something. Like, well, you think Carnegie Hall was built because the Carnegies were like, we're going to be good, upstanding Americans? No, they understood that, like, to justify the extravagance of their wealth, to justify the state that they are in the society, which is unjustifiable, but as an attempt to justify it, we're going to give you something. We're going to build a hall. We're going to build Grand Central Station. We're going to build a stadium. We're going to do these things as an attempt to justify the ostentatiousness of our wealth, right? They at least understood that the system was somehow unjust and acted in accordance to that while still insisting that they maintain their status. Today's modern capitalists have bought into it on a religious level. They think they have the wealth they have because they are God's special chosen person, which means that they don't need to do anything for anyone because God hates you, right? God loves me. He clearly hates you. If he loved you, he would make you rich, like me, who he loves, right? And because they have this religious ideology about what's going on in the world, they're morons. Do you understand how easy it would be for these capitalists to completely placate the working class of this society? Like, do you really understand how easy it would be to prevent any revolutionary energy? You'd literally take $10 billion, like maybe even less, and just enact some like very basic social policies that most other countries have already enacted. Like, a universal healthcare system would not only be extremely easy to implement, it would actually be cheaper for everybody. Like, the only losers in that conversation would be like the small group of total psychos. Like the insurance companies would be the big losers there. But like, who cares? You're talking about a few thousand people. Like, who gives a fuck, right? And that would like, you would placate an entire generation of people in America with just that. And they won't do it because they're just too stupid. They're just too stupid. Dub Desert, do you think that if a socialist state is to survive, do you think there has to be a global revolution, or do you think they can just pop up here and there? That's the big conversation, right? You're bringing up the classic internationalism versus nationalist or patriotic version of socialism. That's Trotsky versus Stalin, right? Like that's 100% what that division was about. Um, I mean, I don't need to have a belief on that. We can see very clearly in the existing world that you can have an existing socialist state. Like China is that. You could argue that certain European nations hold that banner of socialist, right? I think Lenin's criticism of Trotsky's position stands, which is if your theory and if your idea is that there's going to be a big global revolution where all things happen at once, then you're just going to be sitting around waiting for it to happen. Right? And that's what's going to happen. You're just going to be sitting around waiting for one person to kick off this global revolution, when really what's actually going to happen is one state is going to be erected and will work out from there. Which incidentally is what the Americans believed, right? The capitalists actually believe in that idea because they call it the domino theory, right? The domino theory is that if you have one socialist state or one communist state, it'll make the other states around it communist, and then that'll spread out, right? Because capitalists actually do inherently know and understand that their system is illegitimate and fragile, and they know and understand that because they continuously attack alternative models, right? Like if the capitalists actually had faith in their model as a successful ruling system, if they actually believed in the idea that this is the inherent system and every other system will fail, then they would never spend a dime fighting any war anywhere. They would have never done the Cold War. They would have never done the Vietnam War. They would have never done the Korean War. They never would have done the Indonesian genocide. None of that would have happened because if they actually believed in the rhetoric that said capitalism is the inherent ruling system and all systems will return to capitalism, then they could just be like, oh, you're doing something else? Well, that'll fail. We'll see you when you're capitalist again and you come to your senses. Right? But instead of that, they spend trillions of dollars attacking alternative models and alternative systems because they know that the only way to uphold the system of capital is through force. Because they know it's an illegitimate ruling system and that the inherent natural way that people actually govern themselves is communism. They know that. That's why there's all this war. That's why there's all this fighting. It's why the capitalists are constantly exerting their strength and their power in the world. Because the alternative is that they die off. But yeah, to circle back around to your question, if you think it's going to be like a global revolution, then you're just going to be sitting on your hands, waiting for this quote-unquote global revolution to show up. The true revolution will happen in your backyard. The true revolution will happen on your block, right? Revolutions will be local. That's how that actually works. Dub Desert says, all right, going to go to sleep now. But I think you've become my new favorite streamer. Well, that's wonderful to hear, Dub Desert. Yeah, like, share, subscribe, hit all the bells, hit all the whistles. I stream 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Wednesdays. Yeah, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your wives. Give me money. JT writes, they could have had 20 more generations of rich kids, but they're dismantling the ladder too. Yeah, we can replace the ladder with AI systems. Yeah, it's all just like a rich person's fever dream. Like it's nuts. It's not too much different than like phrenology or some like just a theory that is wrong. Right? Just an idea of what the future is going to look like that's obviously wrong. And instead of them coming to terms with it and being like, okay, we had an idea, it's obviously false, we need to pivot from that, they're just doubling down. They're just doubling down. Generation Y Me, free university, and STG, I would be happy for the next decade. Yeah, that's another one they could do. It would be so easy for them to do. It's just not even free university, literally debt forgiveness. If they literally just stood up and said, hey, you know all that student debt that you're all drowning under? We're just going to forgive that. If all they did, in fact, was just implement the same bankruptcy system that literally every country has, right? America's the only country where you can't bankrupt out of student debt. Like, think about that. You can borrow $1 billion from a bank to have an ice cream stand in a snowstorm. And when that fails, you can just bankrupt out of it. You can be Donald Trump, borrowing money to have a casino that'll fold, and you can just bankrupt out of that. But if you go to university and study for a degree that at the end of has been made obsolete by the society that offered you the degree, tough shit. Like, it's a rigged system, and it's so obviously a rigged system. STG says, swear to God. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Thank you for the $5 donation. I appreciate that. Elaney says, have you ever considered doing stand-up? You're funny as fuck in hindsight. Like, most of the time, I'm just listening and paying attention to the argument, but when I look back at the clips, you start to notice how funny you are. That's kind of you to say. I have done a little bit of stand-up, and I gotta tell you, the reason why I don't like it is because other stand-ups come and start to talk to you. Like, I don't like that. I'm 43. I'm the man that I am. And I'm not going to places... Like, leave me the fuck alone. Like, leave me the fuck alone, right? Stand-ups, there's a culture of... okay, look. There are stand-ups that I love, right? I do love I think my favorite stand-up is a stand-up by the name of Jeff Arcuri. I really love this guy. He does a lot of crowd work stuff. His material is like, okay. It's kind of silly and self-deprecating, right? He's not making big political comments or anything like this. He is like the true essence of a comedian, which is that he's just a silly person. And he's just a silly man that makes me laugh. And that's it, right? I'm not going to him for wisdom. This is the thing about stand-ups and what stand-up has become that pisses me off to a degree that I cannot even begin to tell you. People are going to stand-ups for wisdom. Your culture is so bereft of wise people and so incapable of producing wise people that you're turning to the people who can mimic it the best. Who gives a shit what Dave Chappelle thinks? When did Dave Chappelle become some kind of wise grandfatherly figure that we're all supposed to be like, well, did you hear what Dave Chappelle said about that issue? Like, the only reason why stand-up has taken like this center stage in our culture is because we don't have a culture. You understand that comedians only exist because everyone is as stupid as they are, right? If you were living in 1653 in France, right, everybody would be a stand-up comedian because everybody would be reading and everybody would be talking and discussing, and you'd just be like, yeah, this guy's funny. But he'd just be a guy at the party. He'd just be a dude that you know. And like maybe he would talk and lots of people would listen. But then you know what would happen from there, right? You would write a script and you would get that guy to be part of it. And you would do actual real art. Standing in front of a person and saying something funny is not an art form. Like, for God's sakes, these stand-ups, standing in front of everybody being like, stand-up's a true American art form. No, it isn't. Like, you're a funny guy. Good for you. That's not a culture. Right? That's not a culture. Having a funny guy in a room is not a culture. And the only reason you think it's a culture is because you've never experienced what a culture looks like in your goddamn life. Just because you film the funny guy and you project the film into people's rooms through this technology we have doesn't make it a culture. It's just a funny guy. And all of that, by the way, would be completely fine. I would be completely fine with this idea of people work. Did you see what this guy, he's so funny. I love what this guy said. He does such great crowd work and he makes me laugh. Like, that's fine. That's great. People should laugh. Have freedom. All that kind of stuff, okay? But people are actually sitting down and being like, let's get some wisdom from these guys. Jon Stewart for president. Have you ever, Stephen Colbert, have you ever thought about running for office? How do you know your society is dead? How do you know your culture is dead? When you're literally asking the guys whose job it is to be like, and then I shit on his face. To be your leaders. Like, you're finished. Like, you're over, man. Like, it's done. Like, the clowns have taken over. And my statement has steadily become like, you know that phrase, if you don't laugh, you'll cry? Right? Well, we've been laughing for too long. We've been laughing for too long. There's too much of that. There's too much of that. Maybe it's time to experience the catharsis of crying. Maybe it's time to weep a little bit. But guess what? There's no such thing as a stand-up crier. There's no such thing as somebody standing in front of you and eliciting crying. Certainly not anything anybody goes and watches seriously and takes part in any kind of serious way. Right? And so who's the top of the culture? The Mark Twain prize of farting in people's faces and all the pageantry that surrounds this now, and all the this is a dignified and we should all this kind of and all of that's fine. Like, it's fine, I guess. Like, it's all great. But it only exists as it does because you don't have a culture. Because there's a complete and total vacuum of culture. And we keep being force-fed this Marvel Star Wars slop, and we keep getting just like the whole AI thing really does begin because tech bros actually thought to themselves, yeah, we can just get a robot to make these movies and people will watch them. And guess what? That's probably going to happen. They're probably going to make some of these. They are making AI slop shit. And people are watching them, right? And as they tune it and as they get better, right? Just wait. Eventually it'll be like, we're at the Oscars and there'll be an AI film goes to, right? And the winner for best AI film. And it'll just be garbage. It'll just be this schlocky, sloppy, stupid shit. And the culture will be so stupefied and so dumb and so reduced in its capability to even begin being intelligent that if somebody actually stands up and makes a film or makes a book or makes a piece of art that's actually intelligent, that actually has something interesting to say about the nature of life or reality, people will just reject it because they're too stupid to understand it. That's what's happening, and that's what's going to happen. You're just going to have a schlocky group of dumb mega people being like, about it. Like pearls before swine. Very straightforwardly. And as we get stupider and as we get dumber, this whole thing's going to get worse. Until finally we're literally just going to be like President Bozo the Clown. And we're basically there already. We're basically already, Donald Trump was a reality TV show host. His whole quote-unquote brand, his whole thing about being this rich, powerful guy was always just a sales pitch. It was always just something he created, right? It was an image that he projected into the world. It wasn't real. He was always a loser. Like, he was always just this, like, schlocky loser. And everybody kind of knew it. Everybody kind of understood that Donald Trump's just, like, aura of power and all this is, like, really just boils down to him being kind of a sleazeball. And, like, his dad didn't love him enough, and so he really wants to show his dad how powerful he is. And, like, so we're, like, already right there. Like, what, you're telling me that somebody like fucking Gianmarco is gonna, like, run for office and suddenly be the president? Like, this is where we're at. And guess what? Yes, it is. Like, yes, it is. Like, your next generation of political leadership is just gonna be clowns. Just literal, like, hack losers whose entire political thesis is, boy, I hope I make more money. And people will respect him for it. I mean, I really respect that all he really wants is money for himself. At least he's being honest about it. Cool. Yeah. Like Rogan. Rogan is a great example, right? Like Rogan, when Rogan started doing what he was doing, like, I loved it. I was listening, right? Because he was doing, like, interesting interviews and all this kind of stuff. But then he got the Spotify deal and he moved to Austin, and it, like, is pretty clear that it completely corrupted him. And, like, I can understand why somebody would still hang on, but his endorsement of Donald Trump, you're like, we're finished here, right? Like, if you're still listening to this guy, if you're still on board with this guy, I don't think you can be making decisions anymore. Right? I don't think that you're a serious person that we should take seriously anymore. I'm willing to be like, because I was this guy. I watched Joe Rogan, and I like Joe Rogan. And, like, he would say some stuff, and I'd be like, he's just, like, locker talking and just, like, shit. And I was, like, making excuses. And then it just kind of kept happening. And then he kept hitting people and kept doing things. And then his trans bigotry became really obvious, right? It became really clear that he had this big trans chip on his shoulder. And it's like, come on, bro. Like, for me, the moment I completely walked away from Joe Rogan, right, was he kept hitting the trans stuff. And this is when Chappelle was doing his big, like, revealing his own transphobia and his own trans stuff. And we were all kind of having, like, a big trans moment. And I had a dawning moment of clarity with Rogan, where I went, oh, yeah, like, why doesn't he have, like, the president of the American Medical Association on? Like, he keeps asking, like, nightclub comedians and, like, guys who are pitching power bars and, like, power lifters and MMA guys about this trans stuff. It's like, oh, you know what would really be really clarifying for Joe Rogan? And clarifying for Joe Rogan's listeners and clarifying for everybody is if he just had the president of the American Medical Association on, right? Hey, president of the American Medical Association, what's a trans person? What is it to be trans? Can we have that conversation? No, we're going to talk to Matt Walsh again? Okay. That's when it became, like, really obvious that it's like, oh, you're like a transphobe. Like, you're just straight up a transphobe. Like, this isn't about good speech beats bad speech. This isn't about getting to the bottom of an issue. This isn't about discovery. This isn't about anything. It's literally about hating on trans people. And that's all it is. Period. And how do I know? Because there's a plethora of people that he could have had on his show, and he just simply hasn't. And the only people he has on his show about trans issues are people who shit on trans people. And it's just steadily become really obvious that this is very clearly, like, a political ploy. Like, it's very clearly just like, hey, let's get all the trans people and all the racist people into a room together and we can create an electorate. And then Joe Rogan just endorses Donald Trump. You're like, yeah, okay. Like, cat's out of the bag, right? Like, and we're all just in this moment of, like, oh, we're dupes. We've been duped. And, like, I understand listening to Joe Rogan initially. It's like podcasting sort of a new idea. And Joe Rogan was talking to some interesting people, right? In this, like, long form interview format, which I think people were really hungry for. It pays to remember that, like, the media at that time was very soundbite based, and everything was very like, here we are today at this thing, and we're going to talk about this thing. But first, the president of Uruguay said, I think that peas are nice. This is a huge blow to the pea industry. What do you think, Captain of the Pea Enterprises? I think that peas are good and that the president of Uganda is bad. Bringing you the hard facting news. Like, it was like that. And so when Joe Rogan shows up and hits record in his basement and just has, like, one of his comedian friends on, he's just like, hey, man, what do you think about what's going on in the world? And they're like, oh, man, I don't know. Like, don't you think it's kind of like... And they just are talking... Like, I think people were so hungry to get away from this corporatized, like, TikTokified form of communication that he just exploded and came out of nowhere. And then since then, he's been corrupted, and his journey of corruption follows the path cleanly, right? Like, the Spotify deal is the moment, really. Like, it is the moment where you're just like, oh yeah, so you stop being an everyman and you become part of the bourgeois, right? You stop understanding, like, the everyman experience and stop arguing from the position of the everyman. And you're just essentially a lord now. Like, he is. He's just like a lord. He lives on, like, a compound by himself, living this, like, very weird life for a person to live that's essentially isolated. He opened up a comedy club, so now he's like the Lord of Comedy. He's the king of the jesters. And then you watch his, like, most recent comedy special, and it sucks. Like, it actually genuinely sucks. Like, it's actually bad. How bad. Like, I remember watching it and just being like, ooh, Joe. Ooh, yeah. Time to pack it in, bud. Like, you're no longer... I don't think that Joe Rogan can really seriously call himself a comedian any longer. Like, podcaster. That's what he actually is. But he's not a stand-up comedian anymore. For sure. Like, it's like... It would be like calling Bill Maher a stand-up comedian. Or not Bill Maher. Bill Maher. It'd be like calling Bill Maher a stand-up comedian. He's not a stand-up comedian. He's a Zionist propagandist. That's what he is. Because, like... I would argue that one of the primary attributes that a stand-up comedian actually needs to have is that they should probably be funny, right? And I think that if you're laughing at Bill Maher, like, some people laugh at killing bugs with magnifying glasses, right? JT writes, yeah, I remember him having Peterson on. I think that helped me move away. Then I learned about his racist takes in the past, the anti-trans shit through Peterson. Yeah, just like, at first I didn't really mind the trans conversation that was having. Because, look, I'm from rural Manitoba, right? And so I'm really familiar with what it's like to be living in a racist environment, right? For Manitoba, the racism that existed in Manitoba was against the First Nations people. And a lot of that racism came from just ignorance. And not a willful ignorance, just like, I don't know what's going on and I don't understand what's going on. And so I have to jump to a bunch of conclusions because I have no basis. I have no material basis for any information. And I simply just assume that those people are like me and that their history is like mine. Right. And so I have to jump to a series of conclusions based on that poor information that I have. And since then, things have gotten better in Manitoba because of the Truth and Reconciliation movement. That's not to say that there still aren't racists in Manitoba, obviously, but that things have gotten better because people have a better sense of what actually happened to the First Nations people of Manitoba. And so one of the things that I really observed in Manitoba and dealing with my own racism as well, coming out of Manitoba, is that it's okay for people to have ignorant questions and to be kind of fascinated about a topic because they don't know anything about it. And they're going to look like stupid racists because, guess what? That's what they actually are. Right? And that the best thing that you can do for a stupid racist who is asking stupid racist questions is actually to answer them. It's not to come down on them and condemn them and shit on them and send them back into a corner and treat them like garbage and treat them like shit. Unless what they're doing is obviously malicious, right? Which is definitely possible. But like, I would say most of the time, your regular, average, stupid, racist idiot is genuinely like, why are they acting like that? I don't understand. Right? And so when the trans thing started, and Dave Chappelle was a big one who was like bringing that into the conversation in a big way. Caitlyn Jenner, right? Joe Rogan was doing it. So it was in the conversation and in the culture, right? And initially I was like, this is actually fine. Like, this is a bunch of people, right? A bunch of bigoted people, a bunch of phobic people, a bunch of regular human people coming into the understanding that this phenomenon even exists. That they're just like, whoa, what? What is this? What are we talking about? Huh? What? Doesn't this mean this, that, or the other thing? And isn't there this, that, or the other thing? And they have all these questions and all these curiosities and all this kind of stuff. And so initially when it started happening, I was like, okay, yeah, we're working it out. Right? We're working it out. Because you got to work it out, and the only way to work it out is to chew through all of the dumb shit. It is. It's the only way to do it, is to just chew through the dumb shit, ask the stupid questions, look stupid, say stupid shit, be dumb. Right? It's the only way you can do it. But then it took a nasty turn where it obviously became political, and it got politicized. People were actually voting for political leaders because political leaders were like, trans kids playing sports. I'm like, what? Why do you care? Who gives a shit about one person playing a sport somewhere and not even winning? Like, this whole myth of like the trans person dominating in the field. Who's this person? Where are they? That every single time I see a trans person competing, they place like 5th. I'm like, okay. Oh no. And even if they were smashing records, and even if they were doing this, I don't care. Who gives a shit? There's homeless people. Like, what are we doing here? Right? But where it took the nasty turn for me and where I was just like, okay, we're no longer chewing through it. We're no longer just asking the questions or trying to figure it out or sussing this out or doing any of this kind of stuff. We've politicized it. We're doing the Nazi thing, right? We found the scapegoat. We found the person that we can all gather together and beat down collectively together to unify us against a common enemy, right? Like, we did it. Congratulations. We did the Nazi thing. And to me, it really was when, like, I had that moment of recognition of like, oh yeah, any of these people, like Dave Chappelle, Matt Walsh, Joe Rogan, like literally any of these people could have just invited the president of the American Medical Association onto their show and just been like, hey, what's a trans person? And they could have had just like a very frank medical conversation about a phenomenon that exists in your society that I think would have been very clarifying for people. And why don't they do it? Because they're Nazis. They're Nazis. You did not see that coming. That's part of the grift. But now that you know, that is a gift we can send them away and have a brighter day. Because they're Nazis. They're Nazis, you see. They're Nazis. That's it. There's no mystery. They're Nazis. Eleni says, we don't really have a lot of independent journalists. I think this is a great shift, but we have the worst people leading it. Yeah, the CIA exists, right? Like, that's just it. Like, the CIA exists, and the idea that the CIA is not looking at the internet as like a massive propagandizing tool, like, you're kind of fooling yourself. Like, I had a moment when I first started doing this YouTube stuff where I was like, I knew that I was going to get capped, right? I knew that it was just going to be like, it's going to stop, and like growth will stop, my reach will stop. It'll really slow down. It'll really be a lot more difficult. My stuff won't get spread out there. Like, it's just not how it's going to happen. And that's exactly what's happened. And I've seen it happen to lots of other content creators where, like, the first little bit, there's like this, like, yeah, and then you just get nicked right off. And it's 100%. Like, it's very, very obvious that intelligence services are just like, oh yeah, Nick, we got him. This guy goes away, right? And there's a couple of people who made it through the cracks and who like got in before there was really an understanding about like TikTok, for example. Like, I think Madeline Pendleton is like this. Madeline Pendleton, that she kind of started doing it right at the beginning and she kind of got through. The other one, what's his name? Hassan. I think Hassan Piker got through, and now they're in that kind of phase of like, okay, we just need to manage these guys, right? Like we managed Joe Rogan. So you just manage Hassan Piker, you just manage Pendleton, you just manage these people. And that's kind of where we're at, where there's this concept of like controlled dissent, right? And the CIA they're experts of controlled dissent. Like, controlled dissent is how you manage a shift away. And like, there's plenty of people in the CIA and the FBI that I bet are looking at Donald Trump being like, okay, we got to do better than this, right? And there's probably plenty of people who are essentially liberal in their worldview who are just like, okay, like, we acknowledge that this is not great and what's going on, so we can do like a minor reform of the system, right? Give you like a 0.5 increase over 50 years kind of stuff. Oh, hey, here's Zoran Mamdani. He's going to do grocery stores. Okay. Well, there are food deserts. Like, that's a serious problem. And you're right, the market's not responding. So, like, sure, we'll allow like a guy like that to take over a government agency and all this kind of stuff. Because at the end of the day, guys like Zoran Mamdani, right, and like Piker, like these guys, they're not actually a threat to the system. They're not actually a prevailing threat to the owners of the society. Like, none of them are going to stand up and say like Larry Fink should be arrested, Jamie Dimon should be arrested. Like, these people are very obviously criminals who should very obviously be arrested, and most of them sent to the Hague as very clear genocidal war criminals. Right? Like, very, 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 very clear. In a very much like 1 + 1 does in fact equal 2. Like, Jamie Dimon and Larry Fink basically being like, how do we create a genocide for money? Well, the best way to create a genocide for money is to fund arms dealers and sell those arms to radical far-right groups and overthrow governments. That's the best way to make a lot of money. Oh, okay. So you should go to the Hague, right? What kind of extreme far left position is that? I would actually argue that that's like normal. I don't even think that that's a political position. Like, if you stood up and said, I'm trying to rape children, I'd send you to jail, and I don't think that that's a political position. But that's fundamentally why the people who are quote-unquote on the left in the society are not really a threat. Because they're not actually arguing for that, right? They're arguing for basic liberal reformism. Like, hey, there's a pothole, I'll fill the pothole. Okay. The market isn't responding to things like a grocery store. Okay. Like just basic, very straightforward liberal stuff. But because things have swung so far to the right, and things are so like extravagantly out of whack, and even the people who once you thought might have been centrists are actually extreme far right actors. Uh, it just means that now somebody stands up and just says the most rational, reasonable thing. Like, hey, the house is on fire. Maybe we should use water to put the house fire out. And suddenly they look like this extreme far left person because your society is far right. Like, fascism is the most popular political ideology of the day. And it's not even remotely close. I actually think like socialism is way far behind fascism. I think fascism is way, 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 way more popular. You might call it neoliberalism, and in many cases you might call it liberalism, but when you break it down and you crack it open, it's just like, yeah, it's pretty boilerplate fascism, like pretty straightforward stuff. Dave writes, you're absolutely right. I'm sure one day AI films will be announced at the Oscars for AI Film of the Year. That would be a new category. Yeah, I'm sure that'll happen. Well, and like, it is kind of like, I have seen some AI stuff that I've been like, this is pretty good. Like, this is already getting pretty good. Not surprisingly, a lot of it is coming out of China, where they're taking it and they're like making like anime stuff out of it. Like they're doing like a live action anime essentially, right? And it's like, okay, interesting. And I wouldn't be too surprised if the end point of it, like the place that it kind of lands at, is the same thing that happens to CGI. That like when CGI first started happening, there was this push to like make a full AI or a full CGI integration or CGI characters, right? And it just didn't kind of work. And for a little while, they were like sussing out how to do this. And where they really landed, which is where I think they should have landed, is that you have a prop and you have something built, and then you like add CGI elements to the thing that you built. And that really works. And so I won't be too surprised if AI kind of becomes like that, where there's this integration into systems, and there's this it won't become the writer, it won't become the thing, but it'll become part of the creation or creative process somehow. I do suspect that will happen because it is a tool and it has an interesting thing about it. But we probably shouldn't drain all our lakes for it. Yeah, AI takes a lot of time to make something good. It takes like 8 hours to get what you want. I tried it once to try it out. Well, the biggest critique I've ever heard of it is it makes mundane people feel smart. Like it makes somebody who has no idea how to do something feel like they kind of know how to do the thing. But if you actually know how to do the thing, you're like, this is schlock. Like, this is crap. And I think that's true. Like, at the end of the day, it's kind of like, it's just like a toy that these billionaires wanted because they wanted to feel like they were creators. That for all of their, like, it's so, like, isn't that ironic? Isn't there an irony to all this? Where for my entire life, there has been a real poo-pooing, a real shit on the humanities. And now we're making a tool, and what's the big pitch of the tool? Oh, it'll do all of the things that the humanities do. And it's like, wait, which is it? Like, which is it? Is it that the humanities are useless, or is it that the humanities are the goal of our technological future? Like, which way are we going here? Like, and I bet you dollars to donuts if you actually sat down and did like a big study of like, would it have been simply cheaper to just train everybody in the humanities, right? Pay for their university education and like pay for humanities studies. Would it have been cheaper and more efficient? And the answer will probably be yes. Like the big thing that I think is coming out of this AI moment, because it does have a kind of like biblical sense to it. It's got this very weird, like, the billionaire class is attempting to erect a god to compete with God. That like reality exists and reality has laws and rules that we basically know nothing about. And instead of spending time trying to get to know and understand those rules better and with more clarity, instead of any of that, we're spending all our time trying to make a competing model. Like, we're not trying to integrate into the system we're born into. We're not trying to compromise and find our place in the world created as it is. We're acting as though we're separate from that system. We're acting as though we're a separate entity from the system that spawned us. And now here we are trying to create a competing model. And it's gonna fail. Like, it's gonna fail. And it's gonna fail big. Like, it's not gonna be a little fail. It's not gonna be like a let's recalibrate. It's gonna be a complete and total FU fail. Like, donzo. And it's gonna fail for the simplest reasons that you can imagine. Right? Like, the universe is infinite and lasts forever. Your stupid little data center, which is so destructive, won't last a century. Time will chew it apart. And by the time it gets inherited by the next generation down the line, the people who are operating it won't know how to run the thing. Like, these are stupid systems that you're building, and they're stupid for stupid reasons. You're obviously not thinking this through. Like, you're not thinking this through. Like, these data centers do not persist through time. Time will chew them apart. And if you don't think that that will happen, you are dumb. And I know that's going to happen because capitalists don't think about what's going to happen next year, let alone what's going to happen in 100 years. So they're not building these things to last. They're building these things so that they can get a tax break from the government. They're building these things because they know that they're going to get a return on their investment, and that's it. Like, that's the only reason they're building this thing, because they're bribing a politician to build this thing, and then once it's done, they get a payout. And that's it. That's as far as they've thought. And that's all they care about. And because they're all grifters, and because they're all morons, right? Just listen to Kevin O'Leary speak. You'll see in like 10 seconds, this guy's a moron. The only people stupider than Kevin O'Leary are the people who are still listening to Kevin O'Leary. Elaney says, it is just a toy. I would be a music and art creator if it wasn't so expensive. Like, I actually self-taught artist, learned to make music, but I just don't have the financial capital to make music. And not making music, it sucks, but yeah. And the biggest argument for AI is not even is true, because it charges you money to do the thing anyway. Well, and I've been saying it all along, right? I've been saying it since almost the beginning, that if AI actually did the thing that it claims that it is claiming it does, they wouldn't be selling it to us, right? They'd be doing it themselves. They'd be using it. And like, AI has been useful for the capitalist class because it's allowed them to have a scapegoat for a lot of stuff that they wanted to do. Like, a lot of these companies just did want to lay people off, right? But they knew if they laid people off, they would get into a lot of legal trouble, and there'd be an upheaval, an action against them, because really they wanted to lay people off not because they were unprofitable. They just wanted to lay people off so that they could make more money. right? And so they use AI as the scapegoat to be like, well, we have AI now, so we can lay all these people off, the people we were intending on laying off in the first place. Because it doesn't actually make sense to lay people off if you have AI. Like, using AI to replace workers just means you can use those workers to do more stuff, right? Increasing productivity does not lead to layoffs. Right? Increase your productivity, that should lead to more money, right? Should lead to more profits. But the problem is that because nobody has any money, nobody has any wealth, the only way for these guys to make money any longer is just to be vulture capitalists, to just take existing institutions, existing structures, and consume them for themselves. Like what's happening here, right? The reason why they're cutting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid is because that's where the money is. There's no money to be had elsewhere. The only money-making endeavors that exist any longer are literally war and vulture capitalism. The concept of like building a product to sell to people, that's over. People don't have money. Nobody's got any money. You can't sell a product to poor people. Doesn't matter how useful that product is, right? You can't make a profitable model if nobody has any money. And so they're just doing the only things that they have left, which is just extract wealth from what exists. And because they've bought into the system of capital on a religious level, they don't see anything wrong with what they're doing, right? The Real Tuck, good to see you. Yeah, imagine if the public had control over these billions going to AI and could direct it to building infrastructure or expanding housing. Yeah. Like, look, you're talking to a guy who thinks that the money is not even the point. Like, the fact that we are so entranced by the money, the fact that we're constantly talking about the money, how are you going to pay for that? Where's the money coming from, right? We need investors. We need investment. The fact that we're even talking about that like that shows you how stupid we are and how bought into a ridiculous system of a ridiculous religious system. Like, to me, it's no different than saying, we can't build this building because we're going to run out of inches. Oh, no, we can't build that highway. We don't have enough inches. Like, once you actually look at what money is, break it down to its like fundamental components. Where does it come from? What does it do? How does it circulate? What's it for? Right? What's its history? Once you actually do that with money, you see very, very quickly, oh, money is exclusively and only a measuring tool. That's all it is. It's not different than millimeters or centimeters or feet, right? It's just a tool of measurement. What is it measuring? Value. That's what it's measuring. The abstract concept of value. Right? Okay, so who says what is or is not valuable? Well, the people who control the money. That's really what it is. That value is determined exclusively by the people who control the flow of money. And theoretically, if you were living in a rational society, the people who control the circulation and system of money would be the people who were elected by the people to do that, right? That would have a rational system to it, but that's not what's happening. That we have a system of private banking. And so what do private banks consider valuable? Well, anything that gives them personally more money and more wealth, right? And so there's this incestuous cyclical logic built into the brains of these bankers now, where the goal is to get money, even though we're responsible for creating the money. Like, we create the money, but we're going to chew up the society and destroy everything to gain access to the money that we ourselves are responsible for creating. Like, you see how stupid that is? Like, you see how ridiculous that is? You see how absolutely gobsmackingly stupid that actually is? And that's actually what's happening. That we are responsible for printing the money, and we are going to pollute the air, pollute the water, pollute the food, make everyone unhealthy, put cancers into the society, go to war, constantly destroy everything to gain access to the money that we ourselves are responsible for printing. It's so goddamn stupid. Like, it's idiocracy stupid. Like, it actually makes the people of idiocracy look like geniuses. Like, how goddamn stupid that is. That a rational society that was actually thinking its things through and actually had leadership that was actually understood what money would just be like, yeah, money exists as a measurement of value to have trade within complex societies. Like, that's what money is for, obviously. And so we need this institution to exist, or we decide that this institution is going to exist. And for it to exist, we determine that it requires this amount of value of money to circulate through it. And so we will set that aside and then circulate it through that system. And we have the power to do that because money is exclusively and only a tool of measurement and nothing else. It doesn't do anything else. And so you can just, like, if you're the one that's responsible for printing the money, and you determine that this institution, we need $200 billion for this institution to exist, you print the money and then you send it that way. And then it circulates through the society. And if you really need to, because you're worried about an inflationary thing, you can just tax the money back from illegitimate pools of capital, basically. But chances are good you won't have to. Like, all this talk of like, oh, if you print the money, it'll create a massive inflationary. So if you have an economy that's worth $100 trillion and you print $200 billion, what's your inflationary, like, how much inflation are you going to experience? Basically nothing. Right? Like, basically nothing. This whole myth, this whole lie that hacks and frauds like Milton Friedman and Thomas Sowell propagate into the society on behalf of their owners, that, oh, if you print money, it'll create this massive inflationary upswell, right? No, you know what creates inflation? Capitalists raising prices. That's exclusively and only, with like 0.1% differential, what inflation actually is. Inflation is rich people raising prices, and it is nothing else. Like, unless you're really hyper focused on like the 0.1% differential that might happen in some corner somewhere. I mean, we're voting for presidents based on trans people, so I guess we really care about minority issues that don't really affect anybody. So, like, we can do whatever we want. Like, if you have the raw material, if you have the resources, if you have the skilled labor, if you have people who are willing to do it, you don't even need the money. Right? This whole argument of incentive structures, to me, is like completely ahuman. It's completely unhuman. You know what would be a real incentive to humans? Like, you want humans to participate in the thing that you're doing, right? Hey, what are you doing with your life? You want to do something meaningful? You want to do something that you think is going to persist and last and be positive in the society? Have you thought about this? Capitalists don't make those kinds of arguments because capitalists are psychopaths, right? And they don't view the world through that lens. Evil cannot see good. It's not capable of it. Evil only sees evil. And so evil has to come up with ideas like incentivization and incentive structures, right? Like slavery. Like slavery is a good incentive structure. And they just say it. Like, starve people. Starvation is a good incentive to get people to work. That's how capitalists argue. And so, like, the whole worship of money, this whole manic overselling of money, and this whole desire that we grind up our society for money, like, what a bunch of dimwits. What a bunch of dumb idiocracy people. Like, they likely said the same thing when it came to, like, libraries and schools. How are we going to pay for that? Oh, we don't have the money. That'll bankrupt the treasury. Losers. Dumbasses. Like, that's not how money works. It just isn't. It's just not how money works. Right? Money works in the same way as, like, blood works in the circulation system, that it goes throughout the system and it keeps everything going. Right? And if you want to kill an organ in your body, you just shunt the blood and make it so the blood doesn't make it there anymore, and that'll kill it. For sure. Right? And then if you want to kill the whole body, you just shunt all the blood into one organ. Right? Have all the blood collect into one organ, and then all the rest of the body will die. It's real straightforward. Like, it's not complicated. It's only made complicated by capitalists on purpose to try to make it so that you don't understand what's actually going on. So that they can say to you, like, oh, you don't understand what derivatives are, right? You don't understand what fractional reserve banking is and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, they don't understand because you've created a new language that you've made complicated on purpose. But when you actually sit down and look at it, and you break it down and put it into, like, just regular speech, right? Just common parlance. It's actually real straightforward. Like, it's not at all difficult. And one of the big things that I'm a big proponent of, I'm a huge proponent of, is that we should, at least once every 7 years, but I think we should actually do it annually, but at least once every 7 years, we should essentially destroy the currency and then redistribute it. Like, I think that that's wise. And the reason why I think that that's so wise is because humans create complexity where complexity need not be. We're like that. We create things like a derivatives market. We create things like futures markets. We create things like that cycle back into cycles and create feedback loops and create little holes and squirrel things away and create, like, all this kind of, like, connecting tissue and build upon things and, like, create precedent upon precedent upon precedent upon precedent and create, like, all kinds of, like, little loopholes and feedback loops and all sorts of stuff like that doesn't need to exist. It's just very clearly a bunch of assholes trying to game the system for their own benefit. And to eliminate that while maintaining the actual purpose of what money is supposed to do, the best thing to do is just to wipe out the currency once a year and redistribute. And basically just say, look, we don't give a fuck about your dumb religious ideology, and we don't give a fuck about your portfolio. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, if you want to build something, you should have a conversation about it. And the idea that one guy should just be able to jam through a project because he has $100 billion should be considered, like, grotesque. We should actually think that that's grotesque. Like, as bad as raping someone. Just like, oh, you want to force this shit on us even though we're all opposed to it? Gross. You creepy rapist, Kevin O'Leary. Like, creep. What a creep. And, like, that's how we should be thinking about these guys. Like, these guys are creepy pedophilic rapists. Like, these they should not have assets. They should not have wealth. That we should take power and we should basically wipe out the currency, strip them of their assets, redistribute the wealth so everyone has access to the market that we have created and exists, and then literally annually wipe out the currency and redistribute. So that, and you know what else this is really going to do? It's going to make these weird, creepy capitalists, like, who are going to be like, well, if you redistribute and give everybody money, then I'm just going to raise my prices. Okay, cool. Then we'll wipe you out. Oh. We'll just keep wiping you out. Like we should. We should completely wipe these guys out. And I mean completely. Like, Elon Musk should have $0. Like, it should be a crime for him to purchase assets in the United States. Like, he should be exiled, wiped out. Like, the guy literally robbed the treasury. Like, these people should, at the barest of minimums, go to the Hague. Like, to me, that's like the dead center of politics. Like, that's not even left or right as far as I'm concerned. That's like, oh, these guys supported a genocidal project. They should go to the Hague. And then if you stand up and say, I disagree, then now it's a political issue. Because the obvious moral statement is, yeah, committing a genocide should send you to the Hague. Like, right? Like 1 + 1 = 2. We can all understand that. Yeah? Do we all believe there's a logical structure that should exist in reality? Oh, well. Eleni says, yeah, they did say that for the longest time. They had shit on the streets because we don't have the money for a sewage system. London had this problem. Yeah. It's money worship. That's all it is. Right? Like, anybody who is in power has the money. How do I know? Because money is exclusively and only a system of measurement. It's not anything else. It doesn't exist. It's not a commodity, right? It's not like there's a vault somewhere where there's all the money locked away, right? It's not something that you can see. It isn't tangible, right? It's an abstraction. It's an idea. It's a concept that you can keep track of it literally on a sheet of paper and a pen, right? That's what money actually is. Like, the bill that you have in your hand is an abstraction of that abstraction, right? It exists simply as the abstract concept of money. That you have done something that is considered valuable, therefore you get access to this amount. And that value is set by the people who control the supply of wealth and the supply of money in the first place. Right? Adam Smith has a quote, everything is worth what his purchaser will pay for it. like, this whole conversation we're having is abstract. Even Marx's theory of value, which is the labor theory of value, is an abstraction. Right? Who is to say what is or is not valuable? What is value? How do you assign value to something? And the truth is that it's just a conversation. It's just an ongoing conversation. And it's a constant negotiation. That a capitalist wants the value of the thing he's selling to be infinite. If he could sell you air for $100 billion, he would. Right? And how much do you want to pay for food? 0. Right? You want to pay nothing. So there's the tension. And so within the middle of that, between those two poles of I want to pay 0 and I want to charge $1 billion, or infinite, really, there's a negotiation that happens, and from that negotiation springs this concept of value. And supply and demand exists as a concept within, like, we've all seen the fucking chart, within this conversation. It's not the only thing that matters, though. And that's why Marx has his labor theory of value as well, because the labor does matter quite a lot for what things charge and what value they have. But scarcity also matters, which is why capitalists create a lot of false scarcity, right? They hoard things and keep them behind gates and pretend like it's difficult to gain access to these things when it actually isn't. There's actually a lot. Like food is a good example. There's actually a lot of food. There's a ton of food. There's an organization that I purchase my food from called Odd Bunch. If I could sell ads, I would for these guys. Literally, if you're living in Canada, look them up. Oddbunch.ca, ODDBUNCH.ca. Literally, as a single person, I spend $20 a week, and they deliver me a box of assorted vegetables. And the amount of vegetables that I get is way more than $20 worth that I would get from the supermarket. Way more. The only catch is that you can't pick what you get. So they just send you what they send you. But my solution to that has been just throw it all in a pot and make a stew. And so I have this like everlasting stew that I make. That's just never ending. Throw some bacon in there, throw some spicing in there. We're off to the races. It's vegetables. Like you can't miss. And how do they operate? How do they get away with this? It's because Galen Weston and the cartels here in Canada have gouged you so much on your food bill through quote unquote inflation, this natural force of inflation that definitely matters. It's certainly not us jacking prices and celebrating how much money we're making doing it. These guys basically have just gone directly to farmers and said, hey, we know you're throwing away 40% of your food. Like, we know that this is false scarcity, right? Like, we know that there's a monopoly, there's a cartel, right? And that 40% of food that you're going to throw away, can we just buy it directly from you? And so they do. And because food is actually extremely cheap, once you sidestep the cartels and sidestep the monopolies, because food is actually so plentiful, because there's so much of it, because we're throwing away 40% of it, you can actually get a ton of food for $20 a month or $20 a week. Right? So my food bill, literally, like once I factor in the extra stuff I buy, it's like $120 for the month. And they deliver to my doorstep. So like, these capitalists are psychos. They're obviously price gouging us. They've obviously purchased the politicians to maintain the system of price gouging. And the solution, very obviously, is to wipe them out in like one fell swoop. Literally tax them out of existence and nationalize their companies. And look them dead in the eye and say, you earned this. Congratulations. You worked really hard for this. This is what you earned. This is what you deserve. We don't care if you cry about it. Go write an article for the Globe and Mail. See what that gets you. We should not treat these people with dignity or respect. We should treat them exactly for what they are, which is as rapists. Ugh. I'm going to finish up right there. Always remember, guys, each and every one of you is a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes you'll never realize it. You'll just be the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel. Revolt. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.